Once again, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Jasper Fletcher.
All right. Yes, so making a short film. Okay, so my goal for this presentation was to make a short film with my twin brother. That's my twin brother and I. And the emphasis was on having an effective story, which is, I've been making films for a while, I guess. And I think some of the biggest feedback I've gotten recently is that like I really need to work on creating a story that is successful in conveying the themes of the story, as you would, yeah. So, okay, so this is like a little bit of a flashback. So this fall, I made a short film with my friend Jonah. We we wrote it and directed it and filmed it together. It was fun. We really didn't have any prior knowledge about like what it actually takes to make a short film before going into it. So that kind of led to just like a lot of guessing on things, which didn't, which led to some mistakes, which is like how you learn from things. Yeah, but overall it worked out, and we only had really one actor in it, which was me. So that made it pretty easy to like schedule filming and stuff. Yeah, and people seem to like it. Definitely got some good feedback on it. But after it, I was definitely excited about making more short films because prior to it, I really hadn't made any made many narrative short films. Mostly just like you know edits and montages and stuff. Um, so I think looking back on it now, and even just like a little bit slightly after the fact, I was able to really see where it missed the mark. And I think it kind of comes down to it being rushed a lot. And that is something that that was definitely something that I was working on with this capstone project about really doing enough pre-production and really flushing out the ideas before jumping into shooting, even though all I really wanted to do was jump right into shooting. Also, our little filmmaking knowledge kind of led to a pretty weak story. It was pretty much just like about a guy who got broken up with and then was sad, and then like went to the girlfriend's house, and then he left. So it was pretty bland in my opinion, and the plot was a little incoherent. It wouldn't really make sense. And we didn't have much dialogue at all because we didn't really know how to write dialogue. So that was also something I was working on, trying to get better at with this. Okay, so flash forward to November. So this film is called Midway. It was what I was going to do for my capstone, um, and we didn't end up making it for a couple of reasons. But we we the basic idea was there was going to be this kid who um, he went through his day and then he died, and then he kind of went through this like dreamscape adventure, and then at the end it was revealed that he was actually dead the whole time, and very cliche. And I guess that kind of explains why we didn't end up doing it, because it really just wasn't the film we wanted to make. um, and that's fine. And we learned from the brainstorming process of it. um, but I'm glad we didn't make the film. um, but yeah, like I said, it was rushed. The idea was too big and too weird for a short film. It didn't really feel like attached to it at all. And we really struggled to justify the death of a teenage boy. It was hard to make it feel like it made sense to have the kid die at the end. Okay, so this film I made during this semester. And it's called Shirley. It was definitely a different kind of film. It was a mockumentary type film. that I made with my twin brother and kind of my family. It was kind of like a spur of the moment kind of project. We got this rabbit and we're like, let's make a mockumentary about it. Um, and and we did, and it was honestly.
Turn the lights off, please. You're interrupting a presentation. Guys, please turn off the lights. You're in the middle of a presentation. Sorry, Domingo, can you turn the lights off, please? Hang in there, no worries. I'll edit that out.
All good.
Okay.
Yeah, my mom posted on Facebook, and all the moms on Facebook really ate it up, which was good positive reinforcement, I guess. But yeah, so we can watch a little bit of it now, I think, because I wanted to talk about how we, like, the biggest problem with it was that we really didn't have a conflict or story in the film. So do you do that?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and run it. So I think for the moment I have to disconnect the microphone. Here we go with our new sound setup. Always exciting. Always exciting. Always exciting. Always exciting. Always exciting. Hang on there for a second. Yeah. It's always something. Come on.
You don't have to show it.
No, well, let's try it. I'm going to try and get it to play, and then I think what happens is this. Come on, I need it to. I need. It's almost perfect.
Yeah, once you leave, and then. Told you that this morning, Jesus, Shirley. What the
Shirley is our rabbit. She's a Flemish giant, which, as the name would suggest, means that she's gonna be pretty big. We're fine with that. But she's done quite a number on my succulents.
Jazz and I got Shirley for Meg for Solstice. I personally wanted to get her a rat, or maybe even 2 rats, but they only had albino rats when we called the store, and the red eyes are way too scary.
I love Shirley. She's great, very friendly.
Shirley lives with us in our house.
like realistic to you?
She's gonna get my ankle.
Right.
She doesn't have a cage. She just roams around.
Morning, Shirley.
Shirley, get out.
this. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so yeah, that was like a little bit of it, first 2 minutes of it. But so pretty much, I thought some of it was fun and it was funny, but we really didn't write in a conflict, which was my fault because I kind of just assumed that because it was like a documentary, we didn't really need a conflict. But it kind of made the film a little bit uninteresting, and you know that kind of makes it seem a little dry, and so that's kind of comedic in some ways. But I think it definitely would have benefited from having like a conflict and a story arc where like things change and like people, yeah, change or whatever. So.
It's almost perfect.
Great. All right. So right after Shirley making this film, I got nose surgery. That's me right after I got nose surgery. And the reason I got nose surgery is because my sinuses, this is unrelated to making a film, but this is what happened during my Capstone. My sinuses got filled with these things called nasal polyps, which basically like skin and tissue, just like fills your whole sinuses so you can't breathe or smell or whatever. So like on the left image, that's like a normal sinus cavity. And so all the black is air in your sinuses. And then that's my CAT scan. You can see there's like 4 little bubbles of air. So that's why I got surgery. I'm good to go now. But so when I was getting surgery, I wasn't really thinking about making a film for like 3 or 4 weeks. So I got a little sidetracked. So that is what happened. Yeah, so but after the surgery, I got back on track, started writing this film with my brother. And some problems that we ran into while writing is like, we ran into a lot of limitations. Just, the biggest one was COVID, just because like, there's such limited actors. And then like, we didn't want to have masks in our film. So like, they really just had to be, like everything had to be outside and, you had to film with people that, were in your pod or whatever. And you really weren't like allowed to film like in a school or like in a gas station or like anything like that, which made it hard. So you like had to write the film to basically to what you had, and that goes for locations just like around the area and for casting roles as well. Like my brother was going to be the main actor because they didn't really have access to other actors. So I had to write a character. We had to write a character that would be able to be played by a 19-year-old boy, because it doesn't really work if you have like an older man being played by a teenage boy in a film. So yeah, so the things I learned from this process was actually a lot of things. And so the biggest thing I learned was about like basically how to write a story, from very basic like story structure, which that image is a story circle, which is basically like the very basic outline formula for making a film, which I didn't really know about before this project. I also learned a lot about like how much the size of a concept matters, and especially making a short film, because if you take a super big concept, like that's not going to work really that well for a short film, because you only have such a short amount of time. You don't want to bite off more than you can chew. Like the best short films that I've seen are like the smallest of ideas. So that was something that I learned also. Probably the biggest thing that I learned was really that like the easiest way to write a film when you're starting out is to write what you know. It's like, because the very important thing about filmmaking is about like conveying emotion and evoking emotion in your audience. And the best way to do that is by understanding basically what you're conveying. And if you write about something that you know and that you've experienced, you can convey it so much better than about writing something that you haven't experienced. I kind of learned how to get unstuck when I had writer's block. I say kind of because, sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. I spent a lot of time in the bathtub. I was able to brainstorm a lot in the bathtub. For some reason, that was kind of therapeutic for me. Yeah, and the last thing I really learned was that, there are rules like the story circle, like there's a formula for things, but I learned that, you're the artist at the end of the day, and you can break the rules if you think that it would be better if you do. So this goes into the film that is not done for today, but it's a film that I will be making in the next month or so. It's still untitled, and it's in the very rough draft stages, but I was able to get to a point where I feel confident enough in the themes and the story to go on and try to produce the movie. So basically the very, very rough outline of this, or like, I guess, pitch of this film is like, it's about a story about a kid who is struggling to figure out how to get to get through his 18th birthday. It takes place on his 18th birthday. He's struggling to leave the past behind. He has fears of the future. It's very basic in general. Yeah, and the themes of like being time, overcoming a fear, and kind of letting go. This film was inspired by a poem that my brother wrote the day before his 18th birthday. And when he read it to me, I felt inspired by it, and we both got inspired, and we wrote a scene, and then that scene turned into a story after like a month or so. And I'm really excited to start making it. It's definitely going to be a little bit of an experimental film. We're going to try to incorporate the poem as like a form of inner dialogue throughout the film, which is maybe a little bit unorthodox. And we're also going to have a lot of symbolism in it. Like one of the pieces of symbolism that we're going to try to have is this symbol of water and like drowning throughout it, like symbolizing feeling trapped. And I'm excited to try to figure out how to incorporate that. So this is the first scene of the script, and I know it's not really much, and it's hard to like read a script and get much from it, at least for me, but yes, I can read it or not. What do you think?
Or either of us. Do you want to read it?
I'm happy to read it.
Yeah, read it. I'm just going to add my comment that as the film studies teacher, I'm really pleased by Jasper's what we call visual writing. There's a special skill you need for writing for film. You need to be able to write a scene in such a way that the person reading it can see the scene. The words have to turn into pictures in your mind. And this is actually a skill I've been working with on students, with students in the film studies class. And I think this is extremely well done. I would love to hear you read this.
Okay. So this film is still untitled. Should I talk into the microphone?
Yeah, talking to the mic.
I'll read it on this.
Start with a slug line. Start with the scene header.
Yes, okay, so exterior beach morning. A beach on the Atlantic Ocean. The sun is newly risen. The beach is mostly empty except for a fisherman who casts from the shore and an old man who sits in a beach chair. The old man reads a newspaper. Luke, I'm supposed to turn 18 today. The old man flips the page of the newspaper. Footsteps can be heard in the sand. Luke, 18, sprints at full speed behind the man. He busts it down the beach until he's out of breath. He slows to a walk. He faces the ocean and walks towards the water. Waves of varying sizes crash on the sand. Rocks, large and small, are scattered across the ground. A wave rolls over his feet and buries them in sand. Luke turns away from the ocean and walks a little bit away from the water. After a few paces, he turns to face the ocean once again. With his eyes still fixated on the water, Luke begins to move towards it. He starts out slow and he quickly begins to run at the ocean. He lets out a yell, almost a battle cry, and goes barreling into a wave. And then it's gonna be like, yeah, so.
So we have the old man, who's the future old age,
Yeah.
right? The fisherman, I just love the image of the fisherman, someone who's engaged with the ocean, connected to the ocean. And then
Yeah.
Luke, who's facing this void.
Yeah, and it's supposed
Yeah.
to be kind of like a hook, 'cause you're supposed to be asking like, why is he so upset? You know, like what is he doing? And it's like early in the morning.
Yeah.
Which
So-
and it's usually it's not like super common to start with someone feeling so, I don't know, distressed. Normally, I mean maybe not, but like what I've learned is like you should start with the main character in a place of comfort in a way, and then introduce the problem. But
Well,
so this
Every story is different.
exactly, yeah, and so
So what you want to do is hook the audience.
yeah.
So the question is, can you get the audience to want to know more? Me, I'm really interested. I want to know what Luke wants to do next.
Yeah,
So that's your last slide, right?
yeah, and so this film, I'm gonna make it. Hopefully, it'll be done. And yeah, that's that.
And if it took 5 years to make it, but then it turned into a Hollywood blockbuster, would that be okay?
Oh, most definitely. Like the biggest thing I learned from this is like, I really just want to take my time and make sure that I feel 100% confident about everything that I'm doing.
Yeah. Excellent. Everyone, I want you to thank Jasper, and we can ask him a few questions, but thank you, Jasper, for excellent presentation. We do have time for a few questions. I know I have at least one or two questions. Who else has a question? And again, if you're online, I'll put the chat up here where I can see it, and I'll be happy to read out questions from anyone who is online. I could ask you, did your study of existentialism influence your approach to the making of this film? But that wouldn't be fair to either Mr. Selfridge or Robert Cambius. More questions I'm sure will come from the chat. Who's got a question for Jasper? While you're thinking of your questions, I want to ask a little bit more. We during the course of your work on this, we talked a bit about your working with your mentor.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there's anything more you can tell us about that experience.
Yeah, well, it was to be, so my mentor was John Sayles, who is a family friend of mine, and John Sayles is a independent filmmaker. He's quite successful. I don't think anybody in our generation would really know him, but
Oh my
definitely.
God. But my generation
Yeah.
reveres him.
yes, he's made many films. And I think probably the biggest thing is it was definitely intimidating working with him because he knows so much and he's such an excellent writer. And like, I felt definitely a little scared to share my work with him. But he was super great. We had lunch, we ate chicken together, it was great. And we just like talked about films and brainstormed several times. And it was really a great experience. And I'm super excited to keep working with him.
So what I'm hearing is just having the conversations were just conversing with him was
Yeah, I mean,
of value.
he's so good at what he does. So I mean, it's really interesting to talk to somebody like that.
Yeah, yeah. And John Sayles started out as a novelist and then decided to start turning his stories into films. So he comes from a writer's perspective.
Yes, definitely.
And again, what I'm seeing here is a writer writing well for film, and that is no easy trick. Yeah. Other questions from the audience? Well, these people are very confident. They know exactly where you're going, Jasper.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So, and let me just, no other questions from online? So Jasper, I'm really intrigued and I cannot wait to see where this story goes.
Super excited.
Yeah.
For people to see it.
And I thank you very much. This concludes our Capstone presentations for today. Come back tomorrow. We got a full slate. Thank you.